believes that there is something there. The level of proof from a UN reference is very small. All they have to do is be aware that there is something going on that may need further investigation. And certainly Mr. Ocampo, from watching TV like AlJazeera and listening to eyewitnesses, believed that it was time for the ICC to get involved.
Today, 3rd of March 2011, the Office of the Prosecutor decided to open an investigation into alleged crimes against humanity.
Holding the Gaddafi regime to account, the International Criminal Court is launching an investigation into all that's gone on over the past days and weeks. Hundreds have been killed in the uprising against the 40-year rule of Colonel Gaddafi. Thousands injured. The Chief Prosecutor believes crimes against humanity have been committed.
In the coming weeks, the office will investigate who are the most responsible for the most serious incidents, for the most serious crimes committed in Libya.
It's just 72 hours since the UN Security Council referred Libya to the ICC. The Chief Prosecutor believes there is enough evidence to dig deeper. The incidents he has highlighted: the 15th of February in Benghazi, the 16th of February in Misrata, Al-Baida, Derna and Ajdabaya. On the 18th again in Misrata, and on the 20th in Tripoli and Al-Zawaya. Speaking to Al Jazeera, he highlighted what is under investigation.
Hello, Mr. Ocampo, how are you?
How are you?
Nice to see you again.
You?
So what makes you think there is something there to investigate? What has led you to believe that there may have been crimes?
No, there is a clear information and indication that there are serious allegations of crime against humanity committed in some of the demonstrations since 15th of February. And we have some information about security forces shooting them. No information about bombing on civilians until today, but shooting, yes.
The Chief Prosecutor has said that his investigation will take months, not years. He will present his evidence to the ICC judges, who will then decide if arrest warrants should be issued. And he's warned the rebels that they too could be investigated. The prosecutor believes the call to investigate marks a dramatic change, that civilians can no longer be targeted and killed, and that the people behind it will be held responsible.
Well, actions and publicity like this will certainly build up diplomatic pressure. Whether or not Mr. Gaddafi will be worried by what the ICC investigates is another matter indeed, because there's no way of enforcing a warrant, for example. But the ICC, Alan, has alleged a number of attacks. But what sort of evidence do they have, do you think?
Well, of course, they're aware of these attacks. They've seen them on TV. They've heard people talk about them. They've heard from people inside Libya itself. What the prosecutor now does is go away and investigate those claims to see if there is anything substantial that can then be taken to the judges to present to them and say, we believe these crimes have been committed, therefore arrest warrants have to be issued. So there's still a lot of work to be done. But certainly, speaking to Mr. Ocampo in the last couple of hours, he is convinced that this investigation won't take years. We're talking about a matter of months. And you're right, it's all about putting pressure upon the Libyan regime. Now, he sees that as something completely separate. That's a political decision. What he's doing is judicial, it's legal, and he has to go through the processes that you would normally if you were investigating a traffic accident, although of course this is much, much more serious than a traffic accident, but the process is almost the same. So he has got to do all of that. The political pressure you put to one side, but undoubtedly the international community are sending a message to Muammar Gaddafi and the Libyan regime that you are under investigation, that you cannot continue to commit these acts, and we are watching you very closely. There was also a message too to the rebel groups, because as we've seen in the last 48 hours or so, they've begun to get weapons as well. They're talking about arming themselves and moving on pro-Gaddafi areas. A clear message from the prosecutor: we are watching you too. He said there will be no impunity when it comes to taking action against those who've committed crimes against humanity in Libya. And if you're guilty, he says, they will track you down and you will be brought to justice.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks for joining us, Alan from The Hague. Well, government officials from the Netherlands are, quote, in intensive diplomatic negotiations with Libya as they try and win the release of 3 Dutch Marines. They were captured on Sunday by forces loyal to Muammar Gaddafi after they landed in the coastal city of Sirte. Dutch officials say the Marines were trying to rescue 2 Europeans who've since been handed over to the Dutch embassy in Tripoli. Libya's embassy in The Hague remains under watch by police while the government negotiates the Marines' freedom. Europe is backing the Arab League, which says it will support a no-fly zone over Libya. But the League's ruled out supporting any direct military intervention. US officials are wary of a no-fly zone, though. They say that could mean war. The British Foreign Secretary William Hague said it's the responsible thing to do.
What we're looking at now is contingency planning. And it's right and necessary that that takes place. While, of course, stressing at all times that actually implementing anything like a no-fly zone must be legal, it must be strongly supported internationally with the participation of many different countries.
As a Foreign Secretary William Hague speaking in London. I'll be back a little later in the programme, but for now let's rejoin Lauren in Doha.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Still to come on this news hour. Planting the seeds of unrest in the Middle East, why food prices have climbed to unprecedented highs. To Egypt now, which has another new Prime Minister. Essam Sharaf replaces Ahmed Shafiq, who was given the job by President Mubarak after last month's opposition protests. The country's military rulers have asked him to form a new cabinet to lead the government back to civilian rule. So, who is Essam Sharaf? Well, he's an engineer by profession and was the country's transport minister from 2004 to 2006. He won praise for trying to kickstart a new nationwide transport system, but quit in protest amid a series of deadly train accidents, widely blamed on government negligence. He also won support from many of the youth who were behind the revolution by visiting protesters in Cairo's central Tahrir Square. AlJazeera's Shireen Tadros has more.
It was the protesters' main demand, and on the eve of another million-man march, it was met. The military announcing on their Facebook page they'd accepted the resignation of Prime Minister Ahmed Shafiq, the man appointed by former President Mubarak before he stepped down. 12 hours before, Shafiq was on Egyptian television having heated debates. He told presenters and guests he wasn't planning on stepping down, even given the public pressure and planned protests. He also defended the state security apparatus Egyptians have come to loathe.
Friday's demonstration, which had been gaining a lot of momentum here, is still going ahead. But organisers say it's not going to be a sit-in or a protest, but a day of celebration because the Egyptian people have had one of their main demands met.
Friday will be a festive day. We will finish in the evening and tell people there is no need for further action now. We need to give a chance to the new cabinet to tell us how and when the rest of our demands will be met.
This is the man tasked with forming a new cabinet, Egypt's new Prime Minister Essam Sharaf. He served briefly as transport minister under Hosni Mubarak but quit his post in protest after a deadly train crash. He said the state was not serious enough about solving traffic issues in Egypt. Youth and opposition groups support his appointment. They want a new government of technocrats and